Welcome back to Love of Pages, the Geek Elite Media Network virtual book club, where a group of friends who we have wrangled together get to read, torture each other with fun books, and drink together, because that's what book clubs are for. So, I'm Elizabeth, and today I am joined, as usual, with the lovely Naimah, the beautiful Jessica.
Hello.
And the hilarious Stephen.
It's me.
So today we are starting with Naimah's first pick, The Sweet Indifference of the World, which now looks like it's written right way on my screen.
Yes.
But I feel like I still see it backwards on everybody else's screen. So I have no idea what the listener is looking at. So for those listening on audio, it is typed. The cover is typed backwards. Thankfully, the book itself is not typed backwards, because I don't think I would have had the energy for that.
It's just the next step in this like House of Leaves kind of thing they're doing here.
Oh yeah.
I was half expecting having to like read it backwards. Like, okay, here we go. We'll go from right to left. I'm used to this with the Torah. We can do this.
I'm gonna pick up. We're gonna do House of Leaves. That's my next pick. We're gonna do this.
Oh, why? So today we are drinking tea, and Naimah did an actual Swedish cocktail because she's amazing like that. So Naimah, what are you drinking?
I Googled it, so I don't know if this is accurate or authentic, or just someone was like, yeah, Jägermeister. But it's called Jaeger tea, and it's basically just your favorite tea, joined by Google, and rum, and also some red wine. So tastes good.
Solid try. Jessica, what are you drinking?
I'm having Harry and Sons Darjeeling.
Darjeeling?
Yeah, Darjeeling. Yeah.
Harney and Sons is the best. That's the tea that I usually have, the same brand,
It's
and then
Stephen's
Naimah
cult.
is using that right now. A different one.
This tea I actually got in one of my Once Upon a Book Club boxes. It was a gift in that. So
Very nice.
yeah.
Stephen, what are you drinking?
I broke rank today, so I have.
You always break rank.
Well, yeah, normally. And so when you guys finally drink tea, where I would normally be drinking tea, I said, nope. And I'm just drinking Mountain Dew with ice out of a pink plastic cup.
Well, so here's where I get hung up on this. It was your suggestion that we all drink tea. Like, that was your suggestion for this evening. Everybody drink tea.
It was so easy. Everyone
And
just
then
had tea. Nope. I cannot be a slave to my own whims.
I like to think of the theme for the book for Stephen. He just chose chaos. Tell everyone.
And like honestly, like
Exactly.
all told, this is like a chaotic day. I plan to read this book over like the time since we last talked about it and everything, and then I read the whole thing today, and then changed my drink and everything.
And to be clear, he read.
No, there's no audiobook. There's no audiobook for this. I read this book.
Actually had to read
I
it.
trapped him. Yes.
Thank you, Naimah. Thank you. I applaud your endeavors. I am drinking a blend called Yuma Spice from the Peanut Patch. So, and I'm drinking it in the lovely gift that Jessica got me for Christmas.
Yes.
Which is a mug that is kindly printed on both sides, because as a fellow lefty, she understands my complaints and my issues with mugs that are not printed on both sides.
Yeah.
And I understand this one. I'm not left-handed, though. I did love the left-handed store when I went there, because you cannot get a men's T-shirt that isn't like a children's graphic that is on the front of a shirt anymore. They're all on the back. I wear jackets. How do I live like this? No, I just walk. I might as well buy a blank shirt.
Just be female. They put everything.
Everything. Right.
Right across the chest.
Right across.
So if I'm wearing a ladies' cut shirt next week, this is why.
We'll know why. It's fine. But you're just not shopping at the right stores, because I get Mitch graphic tees that are printed on the front all the time.
I don't know. Every time I try now, like I go in like the Vans store or anything like that. Like, nope. All of the brands that are like the kind of aesthetic that I normally like, with like more muted colors and things, that's all on the back.
They've replaced with like button-up floral shirts.
Yeah, no, they used to have these too, though. There was a lot of these.
All those styles are coming back around. All those styles that we criticized everybody for in the 90s are here. They are here for the comeback.
Still being criticized.
I just really hope that those stretchy, pokey headbands don't come back.
I want them to come back. Honestly, imagine you'll be prepared.
What? That is what that's just gonna do. It's like good
Now, here's my problem. The last time I tried to wear one as like a 12-year-old, I poked myself in the eye. I am going to poke myself in the eye again. I know this. I know this about myself, so I need them not to be a trend anymore.
I'll take the slap wristband bracelets though. I'll take those.
Okay,
back.
those were fun.
Yeah,
but those are mostly fun to slap at each other.
Yeah,
that's
like
true.
not on yourself. Like it's far more fun to slap somebody else.
You can't use those same rules for the scrunchy headband ones.
No. All right. So on that note,
a book.
Past. We were talking about the past.
Oh no, that's actually perfect. Fashion is cyclical, just like this book is.
So I'm going to turn it over to the lovely Naimah to lead us through this wonderful book.
Okay, lovely. So I chose this book mostly just because it's got a different vibe going for it. So it is translated fiction. So if you do read this book was not originally written in English. So that may be why they're it has a different tone. And I feel like all the different countries have their own way of doing things, very different from what we do. But this book is a novella because it's a short novel, not a short story, not a full novel, but it gets, the whole plot point resolves itself within not a lot of pages. But it follows this published novelist named Christoph, and what can only, I think, to be described as a midlife crisis.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's drunk when the book starts off. I'm not sure if all the rest of the events of the book aren't just him hallucinating.
I'm pretty positive all the rest of the books are him hallucinating or having some sort of schizophrenic break or something along those lines.
Listen, it could all be very real, but we literally follow him like he's opening a door to his past. So basically, he's written this book in his past, which reflects his life. At some point in his older age, he encounters his doppelganger while walking down the street. And he encounters his doppelganger and tells him the entire story of his life with few variances between them. So the whole book addresses this concept of what if your life has just been pre-written? If it exists out there, if someone else has pre-lived it, done all the deeds, and there's inevitably like a beginning and an end to your life, and it's already pre-written, kind of like a book.
Yeah.
And so he wrote the story of his life, and he encounters his doppelganger, and then in turn, the love or wife of his doppelganger, who is not just a woman in this person's life, but his doppelganger is actually reliving his entire life. So not just looks like him in appearance or mannerism, but is actually living out the course of his life the same way he did 15 years prior.
Same names.
Yes.
For both the new
then
doppelgangers.
Creepily sharing this information, not with his doppelganger, but with the doppelganger of the girlfriend that got away. Which is like,
if you had to talk to someone from your past, would you choose yourself or would you choose the person you were in love with that left you?
Regardless of who I choose, I'm not going to leave them a note that says, "Follow me to the graveyard. I've got a story to tell you." That's not how you start the exchange.
Also, if I received a note that said "Meet me at the graveyard" with just a first name, I'd be like, no.
You wouldn't.
I feel like we'll be like, well, at what time? Because
I don't know why the note is the way the guy chooses to do it, because it's even like there's no good version of that thing. If you send that as a text message, if you give it to someone as a note, nobody wants this. And the way that Lena or Lena, I don't know how they choose to pronounce it, the way that she responds is when she sees him, he says that she seems to have this air about her where she knows this is that man that gave me that note. None of this is a normal human reaction.
No. Well, and you know that there was a conversation between her and the doppelganger
young
that
Chris.
went along the lines of
Young
like,
Chris.
"Hey, hon, why'd you write me this weird letter or this weird note?" And he's like, "I didn't write you any note."
Some guy's giving you notes.
It is his doppelganger, so the handwriting may have matched. Exactly what he wrote it may have matched.
That's
He might have
fair.
Or just
hung up with her.
our author narrator says that he wrote just his first name, which they share a first name.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
This
if
is
I
true.
received a note from the same, I mean, granted, we all know a lot of Chris's, but barring that,
For yours in this situation, you would get a note that just said Mitchell, not Mitch.
no, it would say
And that-
Mitchell,
and that would
then
be-
I would know it wasn't Mitch. Because the only person who addresses him as Mitchell is his mom when she's mad at him. So
You could just see him there writing out Mitchell because she's standing there and is like, not gonna go.
no. Almost 99% of the time, she just writes Mitch.
Only when she's mad.
It's literally only when she's mad. It's like the equivalent of using his middle name.
Okay, but so that's an important point that I failed to mention. Our main character, Christoph, his doppelganger's name is Chris. Our protagonist's love interest name is Magdalena, and his doppelganger's wife's name is Lena, and they're all leading the same lives. So it begs the question of, I thought of just like asking like it or hate it if you met your doppelganger and realized you're just living somebody else's life second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time.
Hate it. Hate it.
Hate it. I feel like I'd like it. I kind of feel the same way as the character. She was like, it's kind of like a book. Like it's always going to be the same. There's a beginning and an end, and someone's already been through.
Well, isn't that what he says? There's only ends, and like there's only the only ending or books. The only stories that have endings are in books.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
the only stories that have happy endings are books.
Endings.
In life, there's death, and there's not much happy about that.
Yeah.
The
It was
dark.
very much the opposite reaction. Like I don't know if he was trying to get her down, but she was like, nope, I'm pretty optimistic about this. Everything's fine. I don't care. Life is life. Like,
I think my thing, like, I would definitely be with her. Like, she definitely, like, denies that fact. Like, I don't care what similarities we have. Like, my Chris isn't you. We do not have the same relationship. And the other, like, and it would be interesting to hear it from the perspective of my significant other, because I'm always intrigued as to how the same situation appears to two different people. And you get that a lot in this book when he talks about like their first kiss or that hike and, you know, all of those things. Like they see it very differently. But I wouldn't like the challenge that I couldn't change it.
That's the one.
And I would spend my entire time being like, no, I'm going to change it. You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to change it.
Also, like in this situation, there's this idea that's presented of like a doppelganger or reincarnation, whatever kind of thing you want to take this as, and how this is changed in kind of like a digital age in there. So how do those things have, like, how does that translate in a time where so much is so different?
I mean, I think that got into that in the book. He was like, but these things are different, because there were like weird moments where he's like, see, when he was telling his actual doppelganger about what happened, he was like, see, there's a difference here. And it was just like, well, there's bound to be differences. We lived in different times. So it's like same story, different like modes to get there. So like trains were different versus maybe he has a car, but he still went to the same audition, so writing the same type of book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and the other thing is like when he's talking to Lena, like if I were in her shoes, I would feel like, oh, so it's my fault that we're going to break up. Like I'm the one who leaves and you're now laying this guilt on because he's going to love me forever. Like that's not fair to me. Like
This is true.
If that is what she was thinking, I loved her decision at the end though, because she was like,
right?
I choose chaos.
Just deuces.
I mean, but that's the only decision she could make.
I feel like if I was her, I'd be slightly perturbed by the fact that my boyfriend, or I guess husband now, met his doppelganger, and his doppelganger basically told him about his love of his life, which I am, and then he found me later and dated me. Like, I feel like there would, and it's probably just that self-esteem level that I have, that I'd be like, are you just dating me because you ran into your doppelganger and said you should
Because
date
somebody
me?
told you to.
Yeah, basically, because it's also implied, at least I think it was implied, that this has happened to Kristoff before with an even older version of himself. With he mentions like very vaguely this like old guy that he had a conversation with a long time ago, but never goes in detail about that conversation. But then I think while they're at a bar later on or something, an old guy comes in and sees both of them together, and he's like, "You're trying to do it. It's not going to work." Bye. And I'm like, "What was that?"
I thought like this idea that there's only several thousand souls on the planet, and we're just recycling them over and over again. This does, however, go with I had this joke that I used to tell to my friend Rafa.
Oh, so many storylines. Okay, like he ran out of material and he was like,
God got tired.
No,
He's like, I'm done. Figure it out.
I would always tell this joke to my friend Rafa because he and his dad are basically the same human. Like they look the exact same, everything about them. They're both nice people and everything. And so I used to joke that Rafa and his dad were just basically one life hourglass. as it got turned over and it poured from his father into him, and then one day Rafa would turn it over and pour the sand back into his child.
There you go. Doppelganger.
There you go. Yeah. No, yeah. Oh goodness. I mean, there it does extrapolate out some of those same things that we run into day in and day out. You know, the common phrases of, "Oh, will you always marry your parents?" Like,
Yeah.
or at least a twist on your parents. You know, you take all the parts of your parents that you like and you find a spouse with that. You know, those kinds of things. So I guess I could see it, but it's still, I would not, I don't know that in the narrator's shoes, I would want to tell the doppelganger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. Him choosing to tell her, again, nonsensical. You shouldn't walk up to just public service announcement, not stalk strangers for days before pick up with a very vague, cryptic letter to meet you in a graveyard. But you're already going to do that.
However, gonna be the most memorable date.
But was it a date?
No.
At a certain point, I kind of feel like it turned into one because her language changed towards the final chapters of the book. She started referring to them as we. And as his Magdalena as me. Like, oh, did you did you go here with me? And it's like, no, you are you. She was then. That's not. She started to get lost in his kind of tale. It's like, that's not me, but it is. It's totally me. That's exactly what happened. Also, I am leaving my husband right now.
No, it's an interesting one. I think the book itself, the story is one that I think has been kind of present in other things in some way, shape, or form over plenty of different things. The way that he chose to tell it makes it more interesting. It's like a game he's playing with writing. In the first chapter, the way the thing is set up is it's 100% just that first 5 minutes of a movie where you go, and what was that? And for the whole rest of the movie, you're just unraveling that one thing. And even for the book itself, it's not a language thing because it's translated. It's not a product of it being translated that there's no quotation marks. That was how they chose to write the book. When anyone has any dialogue or anything like that, it's all free form being spoken at you by Christoph.
Actually, the writing style of it really reminded me of our first book, For Love of Pages, A Time Machine.
That's fair.
Which was a really spoken to you, a person telling you the situation.
Yeah.
Also, I was wondering.
Anybody else? Oh.
I'll save mine
Did
for later.
anybody else get the feeling? I got the feeling that like this is the book the author wrote, and the reason he did all of this was because he had run out of ideas, and his only success was writing about his own life. So he just went back and rehashed it. Like, I'll just find my doppelganger and rehash the whole thing and write it down, and now I've got a second book to live off of.
He was talking about how he tried to write the first book about their like love, and he was like, no, I can't write about this. And after they broke up, that was like his big spurt of inspiration, and he wrote it. And he's like, well, now while going over it, I feel like I forgot so much and I'm remembering it differently now, so why don't I just take another crack at it?
Yeah, let me just try again.
New characters. Same character.
No, it
definitely is.
Characters younger and republished it.
Oh,
it's like
it's a reboot. It's a
reboot. Yeah, it's just a reboot. It's a reboot of whatever the author's original book was, or our narrator author's original book.
Yeah, it's also a great example of unreliable narrator as well, because you get things that he says in the beginning, and then later on, those are debunked. And he's like, oh, yeah, that wasn't how it was. And you're like, but the one thing that confused me was his publishing of his book. I'm like, how do you straight up forget whether or not you published your book? But I did publish it. And his doppelganger's like, it's not there. Internet search. And he's like, screw this internet. I'm like, what? Like, how do you not, what happened?
It was like,
I'm telling you, it was a schizophrenic break.
Yeah.
It was a schizophrenic break. That's all this was.
Okay, so that's the thing that got me thinking. It was the last portion of the book, which still, even looking at it a second time, still sends me for a bit of a whirlwind. He goes back to the bar. So the bar that his doppelganger and his love of his life's doppelganger got married at, the bar that he apparently went and originally met her and she performed at. And there's this man named Ulrich. And Ulrich was there way back in the day. And for some reason, 15 years later, this man is still in this bar.
Yes.
So, and he goes and he encounters him or something at the end. And he basically walks up to him and be like, yes, you remember Magdalena. And it's like, doesn't she remind you? And he's just like, no.
It was like, she's blonde. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Speaking of her, I talked to her recently. She's married and happy. And it's like, oh, when did she get married? It's like, that fellow she went on the hike with. And I was like,
but he is the fellow. What the hell?
And I was like, okay, one of two things could possibly be happening. He has very large lapses in his memory. So he doesn't remember getting married. And he, in fact, did marry, because there was that whole part where it's like, see, that's the difference. Me and her didn't get married. And then the last couple of pages of the book was like, no, she got married to that man she went on the hike with. Or he took this story from somebody else and it's not actually his. So this might just be a person that's like, yep, I was told a story about someone named Chris and Magdalena, or I read a book. Like, have you ever had that feeling where you love a book so much and you read it and you're like walking down the street and you're like, that guy totally looks like he could be figment of my imagination, fictional character. And he's like, no, these seem like these people. And he's just like projecting it onto their life.
Yeah.
That or third option, everybody in the story is on some sort of drug that they used when they made that song. What does the fox say? Do you remember that song?
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same drugs that they were on for that. And then they wrote the book.
It's a lot.
That's fair.
It's an interesting exercise in and of itself. Have any of you guys seen the movie? It's a Studio Ghibli movie. When Marnie Was There, by any chance?
I don't think I've seen that one.
It felt like that a lot. Like I can't fully put into words why, but while reading the book, that's all I could think of the entire time. It's one that's on HBO in case anybody wants to watch it, HBO Max. But it's just very like understated. Nothing is massively poignant in it. It's slice of life with some sadness to it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It felt like that a lot.
Very characteristic of the author. So he's described as being dark without exaggeration. So he does not have any like big epiphanies for his protagonist. He doesn't have any like large character development. A person is human, and he just kind of like, that's what tells the story.
I'm okay like, with this.
People are flawed, and they just are, and it'll be a story because humans are humans, and you know they'll inevitably be what they are.
I mean, there are plenty of humans who go their entire lives without any actual growth.
I mean, listen, this guy managed to chase the same woman away 2 times.
At least. There's indications that it may have been 3 or more.
Like, technically, it is not his doppelganger that resulted in, leaving. It is still Kristoff.
So, I did wonder if you guys found out that your life was something that was going to be a predetermined thing for someone else after you to live, would you change the way that you're living? If you feel that you are in control of your life, which most people do, even if they know that fate is predetermined or whatever, they'll try to take the reins. Would you try to change the quality of it for the next person who is going to have to live this life of yours?
So I'm the initial author of all future reboots. Like, they have to continue.
As far as you know.
Then obviously, yes. Like, if I get to make the presumption that I am the initial.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I change it. I don't it might just be like, I'm very just like soundly, like logically minded. Like, I can't be that creative where I'm like, yeah, these are all the things I would have done that would have been cooler and more interesting and made them happier. I'm like, no, it's pretty fine.
Yeah.
I think it would be, I think for me, it wouldn't necessarily be big changes. It would be small changes so that the big changes have more impact. The big, it's the little changes that reduce, little changes way back when, or little changes that can be made now to reduce like anxiety or those kind of negative impacts, so that way all the decisions I have made, I could actually, future me's could reap the benefits. Yeah,
just you can make dividends on the stuff that you do. Okay.
I mean, I'm always about figuring out how to...
where do we get the ROI on this one?
Yeah. These are important questions.
Oh.
I did wonder, also for this one, how was this book for you, Elizabeth, with the names of the locations?
Did you even just didn't try? I was like, F it.
That's the name.
Swedish. I'm not gonna try.
Stephen, you've got to say it now, because he came. So Stephen read my copy of the book and down here, and he was just like,
yeah, because I was like,
take it with you.
One of my favorite things was that first location that he names. I was like, how is this going to be said? And can I get Elizabeth to say it? So my thought for this one is that it's Skogskirkegarden.
That's exactly how I was going to pronounce it.
Skogskirkegarden, yeah. Skogskirkegarden.
It's just a great name.
Skogskirkegarden.
Yeah, it's a cemetery. This is such a nicer name for a cemetery.
Right. What was the next place? I'm like trying to find the place because I literally was just like, yep, that's a name. Moving on.
And
Not even gonna
say
try.
it so many times it was just like, yeah, here. And then we're there. Don't worry about it.
And then I like
Yeah.
the multiple times where like the Resurrection Chapel where it's like, it was named this thing that translates into English as. I was
Here's
like, thank
just using the English one. I do think this is very much a book club book, though.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just all it like even talking about it while reading it, I was like, yeah, this is all just going to be talking about the implications of things. It doesn't have to be talking about events or anything like that for this one.
Because there wasn't really any. I mean, there was a story in the story, but it wasn't what the book was about.
My favorite part of like this book is that like you read it and you still, I don't want to say you feel empty, but it doesn't feel like you've read anything.
Yeah. No.
No, I definitely like got to the end and was like, what did I read?
And you want to kind of go back and be like,
Yeah.
no, I need to tell somebody about something that happened, but I'm not what.
And I was definitely like, maybe this is a book I should have actually like broken my cardinal rule and like wrote in because like I don't remember anything. I definitely should have taken notes.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's one of those books that like down the line, I'm not going to think, remember that book I read? I'm going to think, remember having that conversation with that person that like was like, I'm going to think it was like a real person I was talking to you about this as opposed to reading this in prose. Like that's what it feels
So
like.
what you're telling me is that you're going to have the same mental break that our
Yes.
narrator had and
Where
go
he
and find
was in
yourself
Breakfast
a
at Tiffany's?
doppelganger.
Very, very possible.
It's not really a doppelganger.
I look forward to hearing the story. We're going to find out about Jessica like hunting down a person that goes by Jess exclusively.
Just exclusive. And I'm going to sit down and tell her, look, this is what you're going to have to do.
There's going to be this girl named Magdalena.
This girl named Magdalena.
She's going to meet a Chris. Okay.
You need to find them.
Yeah, so what in this narrative that has now like I was saying she was going to fall in love with Magdalena. You guys changed it to where she's going to find the characters. She's living this like doppelganger version of a person who read the book about the people.
Yes, exactly.
The recursion in here, this chain.
Jessica's gonna play Nazi hunter and go and hunt these people down and then have them retell their story.
He's like, listen, this was not accurate and you know it. Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
We're gonna fix
Lies.
this.
I really want to know what happened to Chris, though, because we only hear about Chris for like this amount of time. And then we hear about Lena leaving. She's just like, I'm going to get a different hotel room. And then there was a taxi outside. And then that's it. It's like, oh, she left. She got on she didn't even, like, that's, I feel like of all the ways to break up with someone in the underlying, just very subtle way, get a different hotel room. Don't tell him you're staying somewhere else. So he stays up all night panicking and then just get on a plane and leave.
Well,
Was that like her
it's not even a
revenge?
breakup. It's
for,
a
like-
divorce.
Yeah.
Like you aren't just breaking up. This isn't like ghosting somebody you've been dating for a couple months. This is a divorce. Like
Okay.
there have to be actual court proceedings to end this relationship.
No, you just mailed the paperwork. Listen, he'll understand.
Wait, so
I don't know why I interpret it as her sort of revenge for what Christoph did to Magdalena. It was because
like
he
he-
basically did the same thing, like, and he did it with another woman. Like, he basically went to another hotel on her with another woman, and I feel like she's like, my husband probably did that and didn't tell me or something.
not this
And I
time.
was just like, bye.
I think
I'm gonna be the one to do it.
it was that was the weird thing that got me. There's a little bit of Christoph in Lena, whereas like the roles kind of reversed, where it's like she was like, yeah, you don't need to go ahead and pursue those TV roles. Like, we've got enough money. We're fine. Do something you actually like. And her significant other, Chris, was like, no, look at the money piling up. Versus like the older tale where he was like, I hated doing these things and I didn't want to have to tell her that like she would never star in one of the things that I wrote because I didn't want to be one of these TV people. So they kind of flipped on like who gets to be the bad guy in the situation. Whereas in his version of events, he is obviously the big bad. He is the one that kind of distanced himself. And in this one, she was just like, didn't work out. See you later.
Mhm.
Yeah. But you're right, it is a divorce. You can't really just ghost your way out of that one.
So no, in this one, I was thinking about this. You said for a divorce, there has to be proceedings and stuff. We have common law marriage. Why don't we have common law divorce?
Common law divorce. Yeah.
It's like separation, but permanent.
Capitalism. Like, money's now involved.
For the same reason that you don't have to get any sort of certification to give birth to somebody, but you have to jump through 12 hoops to adopt a child. So
capitalism, like you said.
Capitalism.
Okay,
Got
yeah.
it.
yeah. No.
Okay. I guess I don't know. Does anyone else have? Do you guys have any other pieces of it that you want to talk about, or do we want to talk about the book for next week?
I would vote we talk about the book for next week. I think I'm good on this trip of a book that we did. I really appreciate you giving it to us, Naimah, because it is definitely not something I would have picked up on my own by any means.
I only picked it up for this cover, guys. I did not know what this book was.
That is fair.
But I was like, ooh, it looks like clouds. That's
Hey, you know what? It's how we picked most of the books on this.
Damn right.
Plenty of books for their covers.
Yep.
So I am all for it. I'm all for it.
Lovely note on this book. If you guys want to know what this book will probably be like for you, just take a look at what the author looks like.
He looks so serious.
He's literally ghosting.
It's the mirror of himself.
As I was reading, I kept flipping back to look at him because I was convinced. I'm like, no, he's definitely the narrator in this book.
Yeah,
definitely.
This happened.
His life is
ruining people's lives.
He is from the same kind of place and everything. He's a writer. It's very much this self-insert kind of writing. I mean, write what you know best. What do you know better than yourself?
Yeah. True. On that note, Naimah, what have you got picked out for us next week?
So next week is Our Riches. It is a much different tone of book, so hopefully everyone's happy about that. It is there's a background for it that is actually non-fictional, but the tale itself is fictional. So there is actually a bookstore, which was the first Algerian publishing house and bookstore that exists in this book and did exist in real life. It no longer does. And so this is a sort of fictional telling of the closing of that bookstore and how that happened. So we have this character that's basically going to go shut down a bookstore. So we hate him initially, but we'll get to how that pans out.
We've definitely had books where we hate the protagonist, so I'm good with this.
It's true.
So, all right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Well, at this point, I believe there'll be a brand new podcast that'll be out. Well, a returning, new, reborn podcast on Geek Elite with Jess.
Oh, yes, right.
Nice.
That podcast. I forgot. Yes, I am doing VHS Gems with John from Geeks Watch as well. And we watched, our first movie that we watched was a movie from my childhood that I completely forgot. For obvious reasons, I should have forgotten that movie. So if you want to see my reaction to rewatching The Indian in the Cupboard from 1995, be sure to check out the first episode.
It's a great time. It's a great time. I know what you're talking about. I haven't watched it since I was 12, but it was great.
Throw out here, I have no idea what any of you were talking about, and I'm pleasantly happy about that. I'm like, what?
That's a good call. That is a good call, Naimah. Don't think about it. Don't know anything about what we're talking about.
It's a wonderful idea.
All right. So, Naimah, where can people reach you at?
I'm on Instagram at @imajanan.
And Jessica, where can people recommend new movies or old movies for new watchings on VHS Gems?
Yeah, any of your favorite movies from childhood, go ahead and tweet them at me as JM Bailey Writes.
And Stephen, where can people find you?
You can find me all across social media as some version of Peppermint Gent or Peppermint Gentleman.
And you can find me with the rest of Geek Elite Media at Geek Elite Media and our Facebook page /Geek Elite Media. Archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts can be found on our brand new or rebooted website geekelitemedia.com that Stephen has put a ton of work in. So please go and take a look there. Also, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to us on whatever podcatcher you use. It helps get the word out about our podcast network. If you have a couple extra dollars and want to support all of the work that the network does, please feel free to join us on our Patreon page at Geek Elite Media. But until next time, this is The Love of Pages, reminding you to keep turning those pages and always remember to
Geek out.
Geek out.
I was in sync with you that time, Elizabeth.